Lina remembered her first awakening only through fragments, like pieces of a broken mirror glinting in the dark. She remembered the choking scent of smoke, a woman screaming somewhere far away, and the rough texture of mud under her fingers. But she remembered something else too, something that never left her. She wasn't in her own body. She was 6. Hands she didn't recognize. Skin that wasn't hers. A voice that trembled differently when she whispered, "Where am I?" The question drifted into an empty hut. The walls were cracked, the air thick with heat. Outside, crickets sang loudly, almost too loudly, as though trying to drown out another sound. Crying. Soft, muffled and terrified. Lina clutched her chest. The heart beating inside her felt unfamiliar, as if it were borrowing the rhythm of another child's fear. When she stood, her legs wobbled like they belonged to someone else. Because they did. She walked toward the crying, each step heavier than the last. At the doorway she peeked outside. The sky was orange with dusk. A small village lay before her. Quiet, still, almost abandoned. A woman knelt beside a smoking cooking pot, her shoulders shaking as she cried into her palms. "Mother!" The word slipped out of Lina's borrowed mouth, surprising even her. The woman jerked her head up. She looked at Lina, really looked, and choked on her breath. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she stumbled to her feet and rushed toward her. "Oh, my baby, my baby! You're awake!" she cried, falling to her knees and clutching Lina's face. Lina froze. This woman was a stranger. But to this body, she was someone. "Where?" Lina tried to speak, but the woman pulled her into a suffocating embrace. "You scared me," she whispered. "You were asleep for 2 days. The fever. The visions. I thought the spirits took you." The arms around Lina trembled violently. Lina didn't know what to say. Because she wasn't this woman's baby. She wasn't from this village. She wasn't from this life. She didn't remember where she was truly from, only that her real body felt distant, like a dream dissolving in daylight. That night, the woman made her broth, stroked her hair, sang a lullaby that stirred no memories inside Lina. The hut was warm, safe, yet suffocating. Lina stared at her small, unfamiliar feet beneath the blanket and tried to accept that this was real. But something was wrong. When she closed her eyes, she didn't fall asleep. She fell through something. A sensation like slipping backward into water. Blackness. Light. A different room entirely. Cooler. Cleaner. Sunlight streamed through a window she had never seen. The sheets beneath her fingers were soft, pale pink. A shelf of toys lined the wall. A framed photo of a smiling couple rested on a bedside table. And when she sat up, her legs were longer. Older. Hands different. Skin different. Breathing different. "No!" Lina whispered, clutching her throat. Her voice was higher. Clearer. Younger but not the same as before. Footsteps rushed toward the room. The door burst open and a man hurried in, eyes wide. "Sweetheart, you're awake." He ran to her, cupping her face with trembling hands. "Oh, thank God, we thought we lost you." Lina's eyes widened in terror. Not again. Not another parent she didn't know. Not another life that wasn't hers. I'm not," she stammered. But the man pulled her into an embrace, sobbing quietly into her hair. "You're safe now," he whispered. "The doctors said you might be confused after the seizure. It's okay. You're safe." Lina felt her chest tighten painfully. Not safe. Not safe at all. She spent the day in a daze, moving through a house filled with unfamiliar smells, unfamiliar laughter, unfamiliar memories. Every object felt like it belonged to another girl, one whose name she didn't know. Her reflection in the mirror startled her. Straight hair, thin frame, big brown eyes. She didn't know this child. Yet she was inside her. That night, panic clawed at Lina's lungs. She crawled under the blanket, hugging her knees, trying to remember her real body, her real family, anything. But the harder she tried to remember, the more everything felt like sand slipping between her fingers. When sleep finally dragged her under, she prayed to wake in her own skin. Instead, she woke in a third body, cold, shaky, weak. A hospital room beeped with machines. A nurse gasped when she saw Lina open her eyes. "Doctor! She's awake!" Lina tried to scream, but her voice came out hoarse, fragile. "Where am I?" she whispered. The doctor entered with a relieved smile. "You gave us quite a scare," he said gently. 3 days in a coma. But you're strong. You pulled through. He tucked a strand of her curly hair behind her ear. Lina felt her heart plummet. Curly hair, dark skin, thin arms. Another stranger's body. Another stolen identity. Another life she was trapped in. 3 bodies, 3 lives, all within days. She cried that night silently, afraid that if she made too much noise, she might slip into someone else's life again. But as she cried, she felt something strange. Tugging. A sensation like tiny invisible fingers pulling at the back of her skull. Voices whispering in languages she didn't know. Laughter. Sobbing. Prayers. All overlapping. All belonging to the children whose lives she briefly lived. The tug grew stronger until it became unbearable. Her vision blurred. The room darkened. She was back in the first child's body. The woman from the hut shook her gently. "Shoo, you're okay. It was just a bad dream." No dream. No dream at all. Lina sat up, sweat dripping down her back. She looked at the crack in the wall, the flames outside the window, the bowl of water beside her bed. This life was real. The others were real too. And something was pulling her through them like a thread. Something she couldn't see. Something she didn't understand. But all 3 bodies had one thing in common. All 3 children were dying. The fevered girl in the hut. The girl who suffered seizures in the pretty house. The comatose child in the hospital. All 3 were on the edge of life. And Lina kept waking inside them. As if she were borrowing time. As if something or someone was choosing her. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the hut's doorway. Too thin to be human. Lina froze. The woman didn't notice. She continued stirring the pot, humming softly, unaware. The shadow leaned in slightly, as though observing Lina from a world half a step away. And its voice crawled through Lina's skull. "You are almost ready," it whispered. "When the last thread breaks, you will be complete." Lina's throat tightened. "What are you?" she whispered under her breath. The shadow didn't answer. It only tilted its head, like it was curious how long this body would last. And then vanished. But the whisper remained. "Sleep, little wanderer. There is one more awakening left." Lina closed her eyes. And the world slipped away again. That slipping sensation, like falling backward into cold water, dragged Lina down again. Her lungs burned, her thoughts spiraled, and when she finally opened her eyes, she felt the weight of another world pressing against her chest. She was back in the second girl's body. The pink bedroom, the shelf of toys, the framed picture of the smiling couple. But something was off. The house was too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, but abandoned quiet. A heaviness hung in the air, like grief had soaked into the walls. Lina pushed the blanket aside, her heart tightening in dread. The floor creaked as she stepped out of the room. Every shadow felt wrong, stretched thin like pieces of another reality bleeding through. "Hello," she whispered. Her voice sounded small in the silence. She walked down the hallway, expecting to see the man, the one who had held her like she was his child, sobbing into her hair. But when she reached the living room, she froze. The man was there, sitting on the couch. But he wasn't moving. His eyes were wide open, staring blankly at the wall. His hands trembled violently, knuckles white from how tightly he gripped a coffee mug. And he was whispering something over and over. She doesn't remember. She doesn't remember. She doesn't remember. Lina stepped closer. Sir. His head snapped toward her so suddenly she flinched. For a moment, relief flooded his eyes. And then something else took over. Confusion, fear, and a deep grief that didn't belong in the eyes of a parent seeing their child alive. You're not her, he whispered. Lina felt her stomach drop. The man stood up slowly, his hands shaking uncontrollably. You look like her. You sound like her. But you're not my daughter. I don't know what's happening, Lina whispered. He stared at her as if his mind was breaking in front of her. My daughter never woke up. The room spun around her. What? She died last night in the hospital, he said, voice cracking. Before we could bring her home. Before she could see her room again. Lina shook her head, stepping back until her legs hit the sofa. No, I was here. Talk to you. You hugged me. He lifted a trembling hand as if to physically push her words away. I don't know what you are, he whispered. But you're not my child. Lina opened her mouth to explain, to tell him she didn't belong here, that she slipped into bodies she didn't own. But she couldn't. Not because she didn't know the words. Because she didn't know what she was either. The man backed away, his gaze terrified and broken. Please, he said softly. Whatever you are, leave. Lina felt tears burning her eyes, her hands shaking violently. She stumbled backward, tripping over the rug, falling painfully onto her knees. I don't understand, she cried. I didn't choose this. I'm trying to get back to my real body. I just want to go home. The man covered his ears. Leave. Lina scrambled up and ran, tears blurring her vision. She darted through the hallway, her breath ragged, the sound of her own heartbeat too loud in her skull. She grabbed the doorknob of the front door. But the moment her fingers touched the metal, the house flickered. Like a dying light bulb. The walls warped. The furniture stretched. The ceiling cracked open in long, unnatural lines. Then everything collapsed inward. Floor, ceiling, furniture. Sucked into a point of darkness that swallowed the entire house. Lina screamed. But her voice echoed strangely, as if coming from underwater. She fell. And slammed into a cold hospital floor. Pain shot through her wrists as she tried to break the fall. Her breathing turned shallow. Tears smeared her cheeks. She pushed herself up, trembling, and realized where she was. The third body's life. The hospital child. Machines beeped softly across the room, their lights blinking like dying stars. The nurse from before stood in the doorway, hand over her mouth, eyes wide. Oh God, you're walking, she gasped. Sweetheart, you can't be out of bed, you. She stopped. Her face twisted in confusion. And then fear. Lina backed away slowly. What is it? She whispered. The nurse swallowed hard. You don't look like her. Lina froze. What? The girl who was here. The nurse whispered. She passed away 30 minutes ago. The air left Lina's lungs. Impossible. She had been inside that child a night ago. She had felt her chest rising with each breath, her heart beating weakly beneath fragile ribs. But now. Why, you're not her, the nurse whispered. You're not anyone. You're something else. Lina stumbled backward. Please, stop saying that. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. 2 security guards approached slowly, eyes narrowed at the sight of a small child standing barefoot in a hospital gown. Lina turned to run, but the world flickered again. A sharp ringing filled her ears. Her vision went white. Her body shook violently. She collapsed, grabbing her head as something tugged hard at her consciousness. Like fingers digging into her mind, pulling her backward. Into the first body. Heat slammed into her skin. She was back in the hut. The woman was kneeling beside her, shaking her shoulders gently. Shoo, child, you're burning up again, the fever. The woman's voice stopped. Her eyes widened. Slowly. Her expression shifted from worry to horror. She whispered Lina's name. But not the name of the first child. Not the name of the second. Not the name of the third. She whispered Lina's real name. The name Lina never told her. The name of the body Lina never remembered fully. Lina stepped back, breath catching. How do you know my name? The woman cupped her cheeks with trembling hands. Because I am not her mother, she whispered. And this is not her body. Lina froze. The woman's face softened with sorrow, not toward Lina, but toward the child this body once belonged to. She died 2 nights ago, the woman said gently. She never woke from her fever. A cold wave crashed through Lina's chest. All 3 bodies. All 3 children. And she had woken in each one. As if she were something meant to fill what was left behind. The woman's eyes brimmed with tears as she whispered. You are not my child. But you are not a spirit either. She lifted Lina's chin with trembling fingers. You are unfinished. Lina staggered back, shaking her head violently. No, I'm real. I had a life, I had a family. But as she said it, her memories slipped like sand through her fingers. She couldn't remember her parents' faces, her room, her voice, her laughter, her own reflection. The more she reached for her past, the more it dissolved into fog. The woman took a shaky step toward her. There is a demon that wanders between the dying, she whispered. It looks for a vessel. It looks for an identity to wear. And it attaches itself to a soul that is lost. Lina stumbled away until her back hit the wall. I'm not a demon, she choked. I'm a girl. I'm real. I'm real. The woman nodded slowly. You were once. Lina felt the room tilt. The air vibrated. Shadows crawled across the walls, inching toward her like smoke reaching for a flame. And then she heard it again. Voice. The one from earlier. The one that lingered behind her mind like a dark promise. You have slept in 3, the shadow whispered, appearing in the corner of the room. Now wake in the last one. Lina screamed. And the world shattered around her. Lina's legs trembled as she stepped backward, her breath fogging in the cold air of the hallway. The 3 Linas, the child, the teenager, and the elderly woman, stood silently as if waiting for something to happen, something they expected her to understand on her own. The child Lina tilted her head again, that same eerie motion that felt wrong, too synchronized, too rehearsed. The teenage Lina crossed her arms with a sharp impatience, while the old Lina blinked slowly, as though struggling to stay connected to this moment. Why are you showing me these? Lina whispered. At first there was no answer. Until the lights flickered twice, then a 3rd time. When they came back, the child Lina was suddenly closer, only inches from her face. Lina gasped and stumbled back. The child's pupils were enormous, swallowing the color of her eyes. You forgot, the child Lina whispered. The teenage Lina echoed behind her. You forgot. And from the far end of the corridor, the elderly Lina's cracked voice repeated. You forgot. Lina pressed both hands against her ears. Forgot what? I don't even know you. The hallway stretched behind them, growing impossibly long, as if someone were pulling both ends of reality. The walls warped. The ceiling sank an inch lower. The air crackled with a pressure that made Lina's teeth ache. You forgot what he did, the teenager said, stepping forward. Her voice wasn't angry, it was disappointed. Deeply disappointed, like a sister or caretaker whose warnings had been ignored for too long. Who? Lina asked, tears stinging her eyes. Who did what? The elderly Lina lifted her hand, slow and trembling, pointing toward the end of the hallway. Lina followed the gesture. And there, in the dim yellow glow, a silhouette stood. A man, tall, unmoving. His head slightly tilted like he was studying her. Her heart pounded. Who is that? The child Lina spoke first. He owns your memories. The teenage Lina added. He owns your time. And the elderly Lina finished, voice cracking. And he owns your endings. Before Lina could run, The man at the end of the hallway took one single step forward, and the floor under her feet rolled like a wave, knocking her off balance. The lights burst into blinding white and then shattered into darkness. When the world reformed, she was no longer in the hospital. She was lying on a dusty wooden floor. The scent of burning herbs filled the air. Wind rattled thin metal chimes hanging from the doorway. She pushed herself up and winced. Her knees hurt. Her fingers looked smaller. Older. Something was wrong. Her reflection in a cracked mirror across the room made her blood freeze. She wasn't Lina. She wasn't young. She wasn't old. She was someone else entirely. Her breath hitched. No. Soft footsteps approached from behind. She turned quickly. The man from the hallway stood in the doorway. Except now she could see his face clearly. And she recognized him. She shouldn't have recognized him, but she did, instantly, painfully, like a door slamming open in her mind. Her throat tightened. "It's you." The man smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was knowing. Familiar. The kind of smile you give to someone you've punished 1,000 times before, and you're about to again. "Welcome back," he murmured. "You never escape the body that deserves you." Lina started shaking violently. "What do you want from me?" His expression softened into something almost gentle. Almost. "Not what I want, Lina. What you owe." She staggered back, gripping the table behind her for support. "I don't owe you anything." "Oh," he said quietly, stepping closer. "You do. Every version of you does." He reached out, placing a single fingertip on her forehead. Instantly, her world cracked open. Flashes of 3 lifetimes, the child, the teen, the elder, collided in her mind, merging into a violent storm of memories she had never lived yet felt intimately. In every memory the man was there, waiting, watching, controlling. "You lived 3 different lives," he whispered. "Because I allowed it. 'Cause I broke you into pieces. Because I needed to." Lina screamed as the memories ripped through her skull. The man leaned close, his mouth at her ear. "But now, Lina, now you're whole again." Everything around her dissolved into bright, agonizing light, and a new reality began to take shape. But before it fully settled, she heard one last whisper from all 3 versions of herself. "Run." The world around Lina slammed back into darkness like someone flicking off the sun. She staggered forward into nothingness, falling onto a stone surface that was unbearably cold. The echo of her own breath came back to her as if the darkness itself were breathing with her. She rose slowly, vision adjusting. She was in a circular stone chamber, walls carved with symbols she didn't understand, yet they felt familiar, like something she had once drawn as a child. In the center of the chamber burned a single flame, suspended in midair with no wick, no fuel, no explanation. The man appeared opposite her, stepping into the faint glow. "I didn't choose your suffering, Lina," he said calmly. "I only revealed it." She shook her head, tears falling freely. "You fractured me. You split my life into 3 bodies, 3 timelines. Why? Why did you do that to me?" He watched her with a pity that wasn't real. "Because you refused to see what you truly are." The flame stretched upward like a living thing, illuminating the carvings on the wall. Lina turned slowly. Every carving was her. 3 faces repeated over and over. The child, the teen, the elder, surrounding a blank 4th space in the center. That blank space was glowing softly. "You were not split," the man whispered behind her. "You were born that way." Her stomach twisted. "What are you talking about? You exist in 3 lifetimes at once. Always have." He walked closer, his voice impossibly gentle. "A curse. A gift. Punishment. Call it what you want." The flame pulsed brighter. "The moment one version of you dies," he continued, "another wakes in a different body. You can never truly die. You only transfer. You only continue. Forever." Lina trembled. "I don't want that. You don't have a choice." She backed away, breath ragged. "Why me?" For the same reason every curse exists, he answered. Someone long before you made a vow sealed in blood, a vow your soul inherited. The flame suddenly shrank to a small ember, then exploded outward in a violent roar. 1,000 whispers filled the chamber. The voices of the child Lina, the teen Lina, the old Lina. You cannot run from yourself. Lina fell to her knees, covering her ears. Stop! The man knelt in front of her. Lina, you asked me what I want. He placed a hand on her temple again, but this time it was gentle, almost kind. I want you to remember. Images poured into her mind. Flashes of a ritual, a circle of hooded figures, a child version of herself crying out as a blade marked her chest with a symbol. A vow spoken in her voice, even though she wasn't the one speaking. Let my spirit never die. Let my soul never fade. Let my life continue, as many bodies as needed. The chamber vibrated with power. Lina screamed. No, I never said that. That wasn't me. He nodded. But it was your soul. And the soul keeps its promises. As the chamber began collapsing inward, the flame spiraling around her like a tornado of burning light, she grabbed his arm. Then how do I break it? She cried. How do I end this curse? The man's expression shifted for the first time. Sorrow. Sorrow. You cannot break a vow written in the language of the soul. The chamber cracked open with a sound like thunder. But, he whispered, you can outrun it. Outrun what? The flame struck the center of the chamber, and reality shattered like glass. Light swallowed everything. And suddenly, she was standing in a busy street. Cars honked. People rushed by. A warm breeze brushed her face. The world was normal. Completely normal. She looked down at her hands. They were her hands. Her real body. Her original life. A girl pushing a stroller bumped past her. Taxi sped through a puddle. A dog barked wildly. The everyday world swallowed her panic. It looked like she had been dropped back into her real timeline. Then her phone buzzed. Heart hammering, she pulled it out. A new contact had been added to her phone automatically. No number. No icon. Just a name. Lina, 4th. Her blood turned cold. The screen flickered. And then the contact text changed slowly, glitching into a sentence. Your next body is waiting. Lina dropped the phone. It shattered on the pavement. But the text kept playing in her mind, echoing with the voices of her 3 other selves. Run. The ground vibrated beneath her feet. And before she could scream, a shadow behind her grew longer. Taller. Human. The same man's voice whispered against her spine. Your 4th life begins now. The screen went black. If this tale haunted you, imagine what the next one will do. Subscribe, share, and keep your lights on tonight.